Our very, very special person, Congressman Brad Sherman, will now deliver tonight's keynote address. So please give him a welcome, warm round of applause.
모두 자리에서 일어나 큰 박수로 브래드 셔먼 의원님을 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Let's stand and give him a round of applause.
Sherman Oaks. And it's great to be back at the KAPAC GALA. I especially want to thank Casey Toy, who came to me over 4 years ago. And I've been very involved in U.S. foreign policy toward Asia. I was the chair of the Asia Subcommittee of the Foreign Affairs Committee. But he identified for me 3 things that needed to be in legislation. We needed provisions so that the United States government was not an obstacle to family reunification business. Now, obviously North Korea would have to participate, would have to agree to that as well. But there are 100,000 Korean Americans with relatives north of the 38th parallel. And this may be the last time to hug someone who your family hasn't seen since the early 1950s. Second, we need a liaison office so that our countries can work out their problems with face-to-face representation. And finally, I believe most importantly, we need to end the war of 1953. It is great to be with my friends, Judy Chu, the former mayor of Monterey Park, and now member of Congress for so many years, and a leader of the Asian American members of Congress. I'm thrilled to be a member of her KAPAC, the Congressional Asian American and Pacific Islander Caucus. And it's great to be here with the men from New York, Tom Swazi. Now we've seen a great economic miracle, a technological miracle in South Korea, and close economic relations between the United States and the Republic of Korea. And we have got to prevent the disruptions from Trump's outrageous tariffs. We have seen the democracy miracle of South Korea. We go from a military government to a democracy that stood up to an assault. And in December of 2024, the Korean people made it clear democracy is institutional, it is unwavering, it cannot be defeated, and it will be there forever. Those who tried to destroy democracy in South Korea made the argument that somehow that was useful or necessary for the Republic of Korea's national security. What an absurd claim. The defense of South Korea is based on 2 pillars. One of those pillars is the unity of the people of South Korea. That unity was was tested, and that unity was clear. The people of South Korea are unified by the concept of democracy. And the second pillar is the military relationship with the United States. Now, part of that close relationship is our history from the 1950s. For you, that relationship is your own family history. But for the vast majority of Americans who are fortunate enough to have grandparents from Korea, the relationship and the tie that binds our two countries is a dedication to democracy. And that dedication stood the test of time in December of 2024. Now, we began today with a press conference. We had several members there. And not only Judy Chu, but Dave Min and others. A few hours later, we had meetings, and I had a chance to meet with supporters of the Peace of the Korean Peninsula Act from the United Kingdom, from a whole variety of Canadian provinces, from Tanzania and Singapore, and from people across the United States. Now, I have served in the House of Representatives since 1997. For all 30 years, I've served on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and almost all of those years on the Asia Subcommittee. And I've been involved in our policy toward Asia for a long time. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. For 30 years, we have pounded the table and demanded total concessions from North Korea, particularly on their nuclear program. And for 30 years, it has been unsuccessful. I remember when North Korea wanted a non-aggression pact with the United States, just a treaty that says there wouldn't be an attack from either side. And Vice President Cheney, who was running things in the first 3 years of the George W. Bush administration, said, hell no. He really dreamed of an attack on North Korea. That is now impossible for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the nuclear program. And we've seen the number of nuclear weapons increase from 15 to 20 to 30 to 50 to well above 50. We've seen a ballistic missile program that can reach parts of the mainland United States. And it is time for a new approach. The first part of that approach is the confidence-building measure that we would achieve by ending the war of 1953. It is not enough to have an armistice. An armistice is a temporary action followed by a peace treaty, which is now over 70 years overdue. Now, like so many of you, I've been at Bradsherman, and on April 27th of 2018, in that village, the leaders of South Korea and North Korea declared a new era of peace has begun on the Korean Peninsula. They committed themselves to end the war. Yet now it's been over 70 years, and it still hasn't been done. Now, there's a lot of support for the idea of ending that war with a treaty. A majority support in the Korean parliament. And since taking office, South Korean President Lee has expressed his intent to bring peaceful coexistence with North Korea and to end the state of war on the Korean Peninsula. By April, a survey found that a majority of South Koreans support President Lee's peaceful coexistence policy. Finally, last month, the Seoul government issued a white paper proposing steps toward advancing peaceful coexistence, and the first step is since concluding the war of 1953. There is majority support here in the United States, according to a poll that is going to be detailed later, that found the majority of Americans support a peaceful engagement with North Korea. Now, it's easy for a politician to just say, I'm too pure to talk to anyone bad. I don't trust any of our enemies, and I won't make concessions on anything that's important. That's what you call a politician. But a statesman or stateswoman, a person with their country's interests at heart, recognizes that you do not make peace with your friends, you make peace with your enemies. Your enemies are not nice people. That's why they're your enemies. Your enemies are not trustworthy. That's why any treaty about the nuclear program needs intense verification provision. But if you say that you will not make concessions, you're saying you're going to continue for the next 30 years the policies that have failed over the last 30 years. So we need to move forward with a formal peace treaty and then with a peace for the 21st century. This is not only important to the peace of the world, it's important to the national security of South Korea and the United States. And it is important that we put ourselves in a position where we can end the sanctions on North Korea, because that, although there's been some progress recently, that is a very poor country. It is part of that poverty is attributable to its government, but another part of that poverty is attributable to our sanctions. We need the sanctions only to achieve a reasonable result on the nuclear program. And while the official government policy has been to demand complete disarmament, I was there when Dick Cheney wanted to invade, and I could see why a very limited number of nuclear weapons, highly monitored, would not be my first choice. I'd like to see North Korea without any nuclear weapons. But a highly intrusively monitored, limited nuclear program would make the world far safer than an unlimited program where North Korea has far more weapons than it could ever think of using, and then, God forbid, they decide to sell some. So we have 49 co-sponsors for our bill. And with your efforts, I know we're going to get more. You're going to visit, as you have today, members of Congress, and then you're going to go back to your homes and scoop up some other people, because this room is full, but this room just represents the tip of the iceberg of Korean Americans who support this policy. You were able to come here. You know a dozen people who aren't here because they were too busy, and another dozen people who aren't here because they couldn't afford the airplane ticket, the hotel, and everything. So every one of you should be the leader of 24 people to go visit your member of Congress in their district office and say, co-sponsor the bill. This bill on March 1st of 2025 because 100 years ago, that is when Koreans stood up to the Japanese occupation. Now, the purpose of the bill is to push the State Department. We have to also push the State Department independently of the bill. We are all, within a few months, we're going to begin the process of the 2028 elections. I'm in the politics business. We think about elections all the time. It's a little too early to talk about it, but it's not too early to act on it. Every presidential candidate who goes to any state must be asked in 2027, because that's when they're going to start campaigning. Will you end the war of 1953, and will you begin negotiations to try to reach an accommodation that makes America safer, makes South Korea safer, and makes the world safer? And their advisors will tell them, oh, don't say anything. Say you're going to get everything we want from North Korea. They're going to they're going to turn over all their nuclear weapons, and they're going to sing Yankee Doodle Dandy while they're doing it. And making unrealistic promises is something that politicians do, but it's not what statesmen do. We want a president who's realistic, and a president who will lay out a plan for how to deal with North Korea. And not one that simply says, oh, we're going to get everything we want. Now, I could go on. I only have 20 more pages of this speech in front of me. But I will urge you to begin a nationwide effort. You're going to want to start with the voter lists, identify Korean Americans, call them on the phone, and see if you can get them to be active. You're going to want to go to members of Congress and give them not only just a petition, but a petition with addresses and a petition with email addresses, so that they can say to hundreds of people in their district who have signed your petition, I co-sponsored the bill. And then one of those people is going to see that member of Congress in the supermarket, on the streets, at their town hall, and they're going to go up to them and thank them for co-sponsoring the bill and tell them to make sure to get somebody else to co-sponsor it as well. So we've got a lot of work in front of us. I'll spare you the other 20 pages of the speech and simply say thank you, Kamsahamnida. And we will achieve peace on the Korean Peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Brad Sherman. If you could remain at the stage. Right now, we'll take the time for our KAPAC President, Mr. Choi, to present the K Peace Award to Congressman Brad Sherman on behalf of KAPAC. Please give him another hot round.